This is Doug with the Practicing Accountant podcast. Welcome. This episode, we are going to discuss the differences in the mindsets of the owner and entrepreneur versus the technician. There is a difference. Enjoy.
How are you, Doug?
Good. We're going to have to go without video today because apparently my video decided to stop working right there.
Well, that's right.
So you get to look at my pretty picture the whole time this morning.
Deal. Well, today we are talking about practitioner versus owner, and the mindset behind those. And it's a topic I love, and one of the first books I've read when I started getting into business was the E-Myth, and the E-Myth talks an awful lot about this. So, yeah, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think the topic practitioner versus owner, it is a mindset, and mindsets can be chosen. You can be intentional about them. You can find opportunities with them, but at the end of the day, mindset's just attitude. Yeah, it's just a way to think, a way to behave, and just be in any day or any moment. And the E-Myth, you bring that up, and that's a great book. And there's actually the accounting E-Myth. So any of the folks listening, if they want to even more dive into the concept, they wrote one just for accountants. And the gist of the book is there's an assumption made that because you have a business that you are an entrepreneur. And the truth is, typically we find that just because you have a business doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. You could just be a technician, a practitioner, someone who's really good at doing the work that the business is supposed to do. But whether you actually step into the perspective of an entrepreneur, that's another matter entirely. And they look different. Practitioner's day is going to look like this. They turn on a computer, they check their email, they respond to clients, they do some work, they take a lunch, they come back, maybe they go on a walk or get a workout, they do more work, they're billable, they continue to check emails, they have some meetings, and then they end their day and go home fully prepared to do it again tomorrow. Well, what does an owner do in a day? Like step into that just for a moment. What is the attitude of that owner? Well, the owner's worried about the business. The owner's worried about, making payroll, about growing, about surviving, about doing big things, impacting the business. So their day looks different. They may start out in the morning with some intention of wanting to work on the strategy or coming up with something they could do that day that would put them closer to their goals. They would still have some billable work and time, but they would definitely balance it with more of the on the business effort that tends to we just tend not to have time for. And that owner might reach out to an industry group to set up a luncheon or a meet and greet. That owner might do some business development. That owner might develop their strategy for finding their best clients. That owner might, think about the impact that AI or quantum computing is going to have on their business in the future. And it's just a very different mindset. But I think it all starts with the choice, right? It's that when you wake up, which shoes are you going to put on? Which outfit are you going to put on? Am I going to put on the practitioner or the owner? It's like a race. It's like a marathon. You can choose to compete or not. You can choose to just be a nice, relaxing run with friends and family to make some money for a nonprofit or just to accomplish a goal and take it very easy. Or you can dress to compete and run to compete. Have some real targets for each mile, set some goals and a pace that you sustain. And that choice for a runner is made right at the beginning of the race. And in analogy, that choice is made right at the beginning of the day. What am I going to be today? And I would imagine there's a lot of folks listening, if any, that, they've already made a choice today. They've already chosen to be something today. And I'd be curious to know what that is.
Sure.
And more importantly, what would be different if you made a different choice?
So what you're saying is it's essentially the difference in the daily tasks and how you choose to spend your time, which goes to intentionality, as we always talk about. One of the things I think people get in this trap of, they started off with the intention of building a business or starting their own business, but in reality, they basically started their own job. They became their own employee. And that is difficult to get out of that rat race, or the hamster wheel, as we always call it. When you're stuck doing the technical work all the time. So how do you get out of that cycle when you just don't have time to work on the business because you built up this expectation with the clients and you're everything to everybody, and you just don't have the capacity or the time to work on the business rather than in the business. So it goes.
Well, I think it's astute that you point out the employee perspective, in that we wouldn't fire ourselves from our business based on what we produce. If we look at the amount of work we do, billable work we do, we're very proud of ourselves. We're doing good client service. We're doing a lot of great things. We're a great employee, but we're a really crappy CEO, or we're a really crappy chief strategist officer. Those roles are empty if we're just being the practitioner. No one's there to drive the strategy, the vision, and the goal of the organization unless someone's in that role.
Right.
And without there being enough money to hire that person separately, then we have to assume it and we have to behave it. And what a CEO is ultimately, there's many versions of CEO, but the CEO of a business is someone who's charged with achieving the goals and the vision of the organization, usually from a board or some advisory group that lays it out. And then the CEO spends day in and day out moving that organization closer to its goals and vision through strategy and tactics. But without that person in that role, without someone driving that, pushing that, someone whose day is full of how I can get this business to the next level, it remains empty. We remain billing, we remain serving, but we don't go anywhere. Wherever we go accidentally.
Right.
And that's how employees get to places, is they accidentally get their work to increase or improve or to get another client, and they pat themselves on the back for their effort as an employee. But a CEO is going to say, okay, what kind of clients are we going to let in? What kind of clients do we want to get in? Should we be doing this work? Should we be making room for capacity so that we have a life that's sustainable and can continue doing this? Like, the CEO's just got a different perspective, and it's available to us every single day. And that's the fun part about it. We can start this race every morning. There's 3 questions that I'd love to start the day with. No, I do not do this every day. I'm not going to swear by it. I'm not going to say I've done it for the last 60 days. I do it sparingly, but I try to do it. And those 3 questions are: what am I grateful for? What am I letting go of? And what's one thing I can do today that is big? Now, I was very vague on that big piece because it can change day to day. But, what I'm grateful for, it's great to get grounded in the work you've already done, the family you have, the achievements you're doing. Creating gratitude for those is just healthy. And there's a lot of things available to us with gratitude, and it's great to exercise it. The what am I letting go of is a great self-awareness practice to see what it is you're carrying. Are you bugged that you didn't serve that client yesterday? Was there an argument that you had with a family member? Did you miss your workout? There's certain things that just continue to stick with you and draw from you, and letting them go, even if it's just one, even if it's just small every day, just gives you more space. And then that last question, what's one thing I could do today that is big? And feel free to change that word to whatever is important to you. But for me, it's usually something around getting my ideal client. Like, what's one thing I can do today to help me get my ideal client? Well, lo and behold, I've already checked that box today because, I intentionally reached out to an accounting firm, got set up with who I need to talk to, and I'm working on scheduling it now, a meeting with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would that have happened without intention? No, it would not have happened. Like, I had to create that little moment where I reached out to someone in someone who I really wanted to work with, for the opportunity to work with them. That happened with intention. It didn't show up on my calendar. I didn't react to an email. I didn't pick up a phone call. I had to create it. And that's one of the biggest differences right there. It's just that intention to build, that intention to grow, that intention to be more than just another day with my 10 key and a spreadsheet, but really making an impact on this business. Now, will I see anything from that meeting I set up? I hope so, but I don't know. But tomorrow there's going to be something else. And the day after that, there's going to be something else. So what's one thing I could do today from the perspective of an owner or a CEO that would make a difference in the business? That's a great place to start. And instead of,
I would say,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. I would say that big piece or that impactful piece lives in the important but not urgent category.
Exactly.
Matrix.
Exactly. It's not time that just shows up on the calendar. Now, the thing that I see a lot of is time boxing or blocking, where folks will go in and put time on their calendar for Friday for 2 hours to do something that they otherwise just wouldn't do. And what happens when they get there? Well, it's either the end of the week or the end of the day. Phone calls, emails, work is still there. And that blocked time turns into more of the same. So the best way to manage that is, instead of, trying to create this space that you don't know how to use, create things you want to do that you do know how to use. Like set up phone calls or make a list of clients that you need to target, or meetings you want to schedule on your calendar for the weeks to come. Make a list of things to do when you have time. And that way, when you get there, you're not necessarily confused about what you should do. You're not lazy with it. You actually turn it into a moment that actually has some intention for better and better for that business. And again, from the mindset of someone who's holding this business together and wanting it to be more than it is.
And that should arguably happen early in the day and or early in the week before crisis mode takes over.
I'm a bit of a morning snob, so I tend to say that this mindset is most available when you start your day, because there's not a habit that you're into. There's not a momentum that gets built unintentionally by others or by your email, and it just gives you, when you start, just like in that race, it just gives you a chance to get out of the gates on the right foot. And if you wait too long, if you wait till noon to change mindsets, sometimes it's just hard. It's like a gear that's being, shifted, and you just hear the grinding, and the clutch just getting destroyed. It's just hard to switch gears during the day, or the mindsets. It's possible, absolutely possible, of course, but it's just great to start your day in that pace towards the mindset that you want to have. There's a book out there called The 6 Thinking Hats. And it's a great book. It's an old book. And it just talks about 6 different perspectives that you can use to approach a problem or a day or a moment. And, it has, I can't remember them all off the top of my head. There's an emotional one, a logical one, a creative one, an innovative one. And each of them, it's like putting on a different outfit when you think in that way. When you think with your emotions, there's a lot that comes in that, which, good or bad, influences your day. If you come at it logically, if you come at it creatively or with innovation in mind, it just allows you some space to think differently. And at the end of the day, for these businesses to create capacity, we're going to have to change mindset, because the mindset we had isn't working.
Yeah, very true. What are some big rocks that, if we're going to take somebody and turn them from a practitioner or technician into an owner, what would be some of the bigger rocks that they should focus on now to start making that transition?
I think if you sat down with a piece of paper and said, okay, what does tomorrow look like currently? And you looked at your calendar and you saw you had meetings, and you looked at your email and you saw you had work, and just go ahead and line out your day as it would be tomorrow without any influence. And then maybe on another piece of paper or next to it, write down what you could do or would do if you were the CEO or acting like the owner of the business. And there's going to be some similarities, but there's going to be some differences. You may start your day at a different time. You may honor your time a little bit differently. I had an individual reach out to me for lunch, and this individual lives like an hour and a half north of me, and asked to meet and have lunch. And I responded favorably at first until I figured out how far away they were. And I said, why don't we just do a Zoom call? As much as I appreciate you wanting to meet, whether I met you in the middle or whether you drove this whole way, someone isn't valuing their time in that equation. And I haven't quite sorted it all out yet, but that time as an owner is just so valuable, and you're careful where you spend it because of how important your business is. And as much as I'd like to give my time away freely, my business sometimes can't afford it. And not because I'm doing billable work, but because I'm doing strategic, big thinking things for this business that otherwise aren't going to get done, and that hamster wheel turns.
Right.
But to your point, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, along those lines, I think it would be a valuable exercise to take notes of what you're currently doing all week and how you're spending your time, and take a look at it, and maybe you'll realize how much time you're wasting, how much extra time there is for you to work on the business if you were to get intentional about it, or little things that you really shouldn't be spending time on at all. Get rid of those.
Yeah. Or even, it's kind of a tall order to track time. I know, and not everyone has a system that works for them, or that they use even. But I think just reflecting on your week to say, how much time did I spend in that owner seat? Like, what can I point out that I did tangible with evidence that I did this past week in that owner's perspective? And if you go a whole week without any time at all, I'm not going to judge you and say that's bad. I'm also going to say, don't expect there to be any difference in your business or in your capacity or in your clients going forward, unless there is that time. And so it would be great, I think, to your point, just that, and I do this on Saturdays sometimes, and again, don't do it every Saturday, but I grab a cup of coffee, I sit down in front of my computer, I open up my calendar to see who I met with in the past week. I look at all my emails that I sent for the last 7 days, and I don't open them, I just see who I sent them to. And I start a list of the impact that I had with my effort over the last week. And it could be helping a client find a new job, or help grow their business, or find better clients, or whatever it might be, things that I'm impacting or influencing with my work. And I love collecting them. But I also am looking for things that I did for the business. Did I do any business development efforts? Did I have networking lunches or breakfasts? Did I go to an event? Did I send some emails to folks I hadn't met in an effort to get their business? And if that list is short, I'm not going to spend too much time judging myself on that, but I am going to say, okay, next week I need to make some changes. Next week I need to make some calls.
It's almost a personal after action review.
Yeah, totally.
And it'd be cool if you could figure out a way to score yourself each week.
Yeah.
In retrospect, and see how you did, and make changes, and start time blocking for the next week going forward. That would be a great Saturday morning coffee exercise.
I used to, again, another thing that I do occasionally, but not all the time, but I would track 14ers. So I've got a friend who or a colleague, I guess I could call him. He's climbed every 14er, a lot of them multiple times. And he's just kind of a 14er whore.
Right.
and growing up in the mountains, I've actually never climbed one, which I feel guilty about for a moment. And then I go, oh, wait, I'm not really interested in that. But I used to set a goal each day to climb a 14er in my business, meaning I did 14 things that would propel my business to a different level. And it could be something like record this video with you. It could be write a blog. It could be send an email. It could be go to a meeting. It could be create a meeting. But I would try to climb 14,000 feet or 14 things each day that got my business up that hill. And, the days when I only made it, 4,000 or 5,000 feet, only did 4 or 5 things. I didn't, get down about that. I recognize that some mountains you do need to do in chunks. You're not going to make it all the way up every time. Weather or circumstances will prevent you. And so I let each day go and try again the next day. And some days I'd get over 14 items accomplished, and some days it'd be less. But none of that happens without intention. None of it. And that intention comes from the mindset of being an owner versus a practitioner.
I would say you could easily, just to start off with, instead of doing a 14er a day, 14 items a day, because I would assume most solopreneurs don't have the time or the energy in one day to knock off 14 things, or maybe not even know what 14 things to knock off. I would say start with one thing one day. Yeah. And when you start realizing what the next step is, and then you can start building your list of 14 things. And whether you get that done in a week or a day or 2 weeks, as long as you're climbing, that's the point.
Right. So I'm about to be on the cusp of a health kick, right? So I get them, every once in a while, and it's not every year, but every couple of years I'll get into this big health kick. And
about to be on the cusp of one.
Yes, I can feel it brewing. My body's telling me it's about time, so I'm trying to listen. But when you work out, it's pretty simple. You got to burn more than you consume. You've got to exercise, you got to walk, you got to burn, you got to build muscle that burns more than the lack thereof. And at the same time, you got to manage your diet so that you're not consuming as much or in as quantities, or what you're eating or what you're drinking. Pretty simple. It's the same thing with the business. Like, you've got to be building it and not just expecting it to grow. Like, I can't just expect to get healthier. I can't just wait for the moment when I lose 20 pounds. That's not something I'm going to bump into without intention. I've got to build the program. I got to watch my diet. I got to work on it for a while. And over time, I would hope to see those 20 pounds gone. But I can't just expect them to. And I think a lot of folks are in their businesses just expecting it to get better. We're just waiting for those moments when those 20 pounds just drop off. But it's got to be a workout. It's got to be intentional. It's got to be something that every day is a part of the program.
And I love the fitness business sort of similarities in comparison. If you wait to get healthy until it's too late, similar to a business, if you wait to grow your business until it's too late, then you hit a recession, or tax laws change, or whatever externalities might hurt the business. You're not prepared for it. It's like if you wait to get healthy until you get some sort of chronic disease that now you probably can't overcome that without some sort of medication that's going to take forever.
No, there's going to be triage, right? And then there's going to be that moment when we're motivated by fear, fear of losing our business or our families or our health. And that is one of the greater motivators out there for sure. It's just not the preferred one. I can let my health get to a point where, it gets scary and the doctor says, fix something or else, poor things happen. Well, the same thing with the business. We can wait until bad things happen, or we can be intentional about it. Use that time that's not urgent but important. Build that strategy, build that plan, find those clients. And if we just go another day, just like the other one, where we spend most of our time reacting to the circumstances and the deadlines, we won't find ourselves in a healthier state.
Yep. If you can, change happens when pain of not changing becomes more than the pain of changing, because changing is a difficult process.
Sure.
And if you could only start making changes before that pain flip-flops, you'd be way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So.
Wouldn't have to go into that space. So I think my intention for today is just to create the opportunity to consider the mindset when you wake up tomorrow morning. Like, go ahead and finish your day, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, finish it. But tomorrow morning, just before you open your computer and start going into your emails and start reacting, write down one thing that you could do that day that isn't normal, isn't something the employee is going to be interested in doing, but something that the owner values. And just pick one thing tomorrow and then do it. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be to write a book tomorrow, or I have to get 10 new clients tomorrow. Just maybe I'm going to make one phone call, or I'm going to line out my ideal client tomorrow, or I'm going to identify clients that I shouldn't be working with anymore, or I'm going to set some goals for this business that are qualitative versus quantitative. Just try just one thing tomorrow. And when it's done, pat yourself on the back and get back into the work that you need to get done. And then do the same thing on Wednesday, and do the same thing on Thursday and Friday. Over time, if you've collected 15, 20 days where you acted like an owner once each of those days, your business is going to be in a different place in a month.
Oh, 100%. Yep. Do ownership.
Yeah.
Don't do employee shit.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, Doug, any final thoughts, or?
Nope. That's it. That's it.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Sorry about the video.
Sir, as always, and we'll see everyone next week.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Practicing Accountant podcast. And I also hope that you've got some new intentions for how you manage your daily activities in both mindsets of the technician as well as the owner and the entrepreneur. Please share and like this episode and visit us at www.thepracticingaccountants.com. We'd love for you to learn more about us and what we do. Thank you for watching.